Have you ever noticed how much quieter life can feel after 65? Maybe the phone doesn't ring as often, or those invitations that used to come regularly now arrive only once in a while. Sometimes, even if you've got family close by, there's a longing for that special kind of connection that comes from friendship, the kind of person you can laugh with, share stories with, or just enjoy a quiet cup of tea together. And yet, for many people, especially those who describe themselves as shy, the idea of making new friends later in life feels almost impossible. It's as if making friends is something that belongs to childhood or early adulthood. But let me tell you, that couldn't be further from the truth. Friendship after 65 isn't just possible, it's vital. It gives you energy, helps your mind stay sharp, and keeps your heart open to joy. Loneliness, on the other hand, can sneak in quietly, and it has real effects not just on mood, but even on health. Studies show it can raise stress, weaken the immune system, and even shorten life expectancy. So building new friendships isn't just about filling time, it's about strengthening your life itself. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. 5 meaningful ways to create new friendships after 65, even if you've always thought of yourself as shy. Let's start with something simple but powerful: opening yourself to everyday conversations. Think about the last time you were standing in line at the grocery store or sitting in a waiting room at the doctor's office. How often do you make eye contact or even offer a smile? For someone who's shy, starting small is the key. You don't have to launch into a big story. Just a comment about the weather or a kind word about the book someone is holding can open a door. It might seem tiny, but often friendships grow from the smallest beginnings. I once spoke with a woman who met her closest friend in her 70s simply because she complimented her scarf at the post office. That little gesture turned into coffee, which turned into a friendship that's lasted more than a decade. When you let yourself start with short, light interactions, you remove the pressure. You're not trying to make a friend right then and there, you're simply practicing being open. And that's the foundation. Shy people sometimes imagine that everyone else is confident, but the truth is, many people are just as hesitant. A simple smile or word from you might be exactly what gives someone else the courage to respond. Now, beyond those little daily moments, another way to make connections is by joining activities where people naturally gather around shared interest. This is powerful because it gives you something to talk about right away, which takes the pressure off. Imagine going to a gardening club where everyone is already discussing soil and seedlings. You don't need to invent conversation, you just join in. Or maybe you sign up for a gentle exercise class like Tai Chi or chair yoga. Not only are you improving your health, but you're also creating opportunities to connect before or after the class. And if clubs or classes feel too intimidating, start with smaller group settings. Many libraries or community centers offer book discussions, craft circles, or even cooking classes designed for seniors. The best part about these groups is that people usually return week after week, so you naturally see familiar faces, which makes each conversation easier than the last. Before long, what began as the person I sit next to in class becomes the friend I grab lunch with afterwards. I remember hearing about a man who joined a photography group in his late 60s. At first, he barely spoke. He would sit quietly, snapping pictures and listening to the others talk. But as the weeks went by, he began to share his photos, then his stories, and soon found himself part of a circle of friends who not only appreciated his art, but also valued his company. That's the power of shared activities. It gives friendships room to grow naturally without forcing them. It's also worth mentioning that today, technology can lend a hand. Many people think online friendships are only for the young, but more and more seniors are discovering communities that exist on platforms like Facebook groups, forums, or apps designed to connect people with similar hobbies. You can meet someone who loves the same kind of music or who also has a passion for old movies. Even if those online conversations start digitally, they can grow into real-world meetups or simply become meaningful connections you enjoy from home. At this point, we've touched on how simple conversations and shared activities can start opening doors, even for someone who feels shy. But building friendships is also about nurturing them once the door is open. And one of the most beautiful ways to do that is by offering help. When you lend a hand, whether it's carrying groceries for a neighbor, helping someone with a ride, or volunteering at a local center, you not only do something kind, but you also create a bond. Helping has a way of melting away shyness because the focus is no longer on you, it's on the other person. Friendships built through helping often feel especially meaningful because they start with trust and generosity. And think about it. When someone helps you, don't you instantly feel more connected to them? The same works in reverse. So whether it's through a formal volunteering opportunity or just little acts of kindness in daily life, offering help is a doorway into deep and lasting friendships. And as we think about kindness, we can also see how it naturally leads us toward another important step in creating friendships after 65. It's about allowing yourself to share a little more of your story, opening up just enough to let people know the real you. Because the truth is, when we let our walls down a little, people are drawn closer, not pushed away. That's when those casual conversations and small gestures can transform into something truly lasting. Now that we've explored how opening small conversations, joining activities, and lending a helping hand can bring people closer, we're ready to step into the next way you can build meaningful friendships that enrich your life in this stage of the journey. It's funny how something as simple as opening up a little can change everything. When you share even a small part of your story, maybe about the time you learned to cook your grandmother's favorite recipe, or the way your first job shaped you, you give others an opening to respond with their own stories. This exchange is the beginning of connection. Many people think being shy means they don't have much to offer in conversation, but often it's the opposite. Shy people are great listeners, and that's a quality everyone treasures in a friend. All it takes is adding a little sprinkle of your own life into the mix, and suddenly, the relationship shifts from polite chit-chat to genuine bonding. For example, I knew a gentleman in his late 60s who always sat quietly at his church gatherings. People liked him, but no one knew him very well. One day, during a casual conversation, he shared a memory about his father teaching him how to fix old radios. That tiny detail opened the floodgates. Suddenly, others began sharing their own childhood memories, and before long, a few of them were meeting regularly to tinker with electronics together. His willingness to open up just a little turned him from the quiet man in the corner into the friend with the wonderful stories. Of course, opening up doesn't mean you have to tell your life story all at once. Think of it like planting seeds. Share a small memory, a piece of advice, or even something as light as your favorite old TV show. People relate to honesty and simplicity, and those seeds of sharing can grow into something beautiful. The more you practice, the easier it gets, and the more natural those friendships become. But let's also talk about something that many people hesitate with: inviting others into your space. Friendship often deepens when you take the brave step of extending an invitation. It doesn't have to be a grand dinner party. It can be as simple as asking someone over for tea, inviting them to join you on a walk, or suggesting you attend a local event together. This act of reaching out shows that you're open to more than just casual exchanges. It shows you're willing to invest a little in building the relationship. Now, for someone who's shy, this might feel intimidating. What if they say no? What if they're too busy? Here's the truth. Not every invitation will work out, and that's okay. Friendship is like fishing. You cast a few lines, and not everyone catches, but when it does, it's worth it. People usually appreciate being thought of, even if they can't accept the invitation right away. And often, they'll return the gesture, which leads to that natural give and take that makes friendship strong. I remember a woman in her 70s who joined a local knitting group. After a few weeks of chatting during the sessions, she invited two of the ladies to her house for coffee. She worried they might feel awkward, but instead they were thrilled. That little coffee meetup became a weekly ritual, and eventually a core group of friends who supported each other through health scares, birthdays, and even the loss of loved ones. One small invitation turned into a lifeline. Extending invitations doesn't just apply to new people either. Sometimes the opportunity to rekindle old friendships is right in front of us. Perhaps there's someone you used to know, well, an old neighbor, a colleague, even a childhood friend who you've lost touch with. These days, with the help of phones, email, and social media, reconnecting is easier than ever. Sending a simple message that says, "I was just thinking about you," can be the first step toward restoring a connection that still has room to grow. And here's something beautiful to remember. Many people are longing for friendship just as much as you are. They may be waiting for someone like you to take that first step. Shy or not, you have the power to be the spark that starts something new. Along with opening up and extending invitations, another way to foster friendships after 65 is by showing consistency. Think about how comforting it feels when you see the same friendly face regularly, whether it's in a class, at a coffee shop, or during a morning walk. Consistency builds trust. When people see you showing up week after week, they begin to feel that you're reliable. And reliability is one of the foundations of true friendship. Consistency doesn't mean you have to do anything extraordinary. It might look like always going to that Wednesday art class, or being the person who walks the park trail at the same time each morning. Over time, others begin to notice and join in, and those shared routines become fertile ground for friendships. Even shy people thrive when there's a structure that makes interactions predictable and comfortable. Take, for instance, a man who always went to the same coffee shop every Saturday morning. For months, he quietly read his newspaper at the corner table. Eventually, another regular started sitting nearby, and small conversations began about the headlines. Soon, they were saving each other's seats, and that casual routine turned into a friendship that spilled into the rest of their lives. When you show up consistently, you remove the uncertainty. People know when and where to find you, and that reliability invites them to approach you. It's a gentle, natural way of building relationships without having to push past your shyness all at once. So you can see, making friends later in life doesn't require changing who you are or suddenly becoming outgoing. It's about using the strengths you already have: listening, kindness, consistency, and combining them with small, courageous steps like sharing a story or extending an invitation. And when those pieces come together, something magical begins to happen. Friendships at this stage of life aren't about quantity. They're about quality. Even one or two new, meaningful connections can transform your days from quiet and lonely into full and joyful. And each step you take, whether it's starting a conversation, joining a group, offering a helping hand, or showing up regularly, creates another opportunity for those friendships to grow. And that brings us naturally to one more way to create connections that matter, a way that combines everything we've talked about so far into something that can truly enrich your days and give you purpose. And that way is through finding purpose together. Friendships, especially later in life, thrive not just on conversation, but on shared meaning. When two or more people work side by side on something that matters, whether it's volunteering, creating, or supporting others, the bond that forms goes far beyond small talk. It becomes a friendship rooted in purpose, and that's often the kind that lasts the longest. Think about how good it feels to give back. Volunteering at a food pantry, tutoring children at the library, or even helping plant flowers in the community garden doesn't just serve others, it puts you shoulder to shoulder with people who share the same values. And because you're already united by that cause, it's easier to talk, easier to laugh, easier to grow close. You're not forcing friendship. You're letting it blossom naturally in the soil of shared purpose. I remember hearing about a group of retirees who volunteered at a local animal shelter. At first, they barely knew each other, but as the weeks passed, they found themselves laughing together while walking dogs, or wiping down cages, or just swapping stories during coffee breaks. Those volunteer days became the highlight of their weeks. And eventually, their friendship circle extended outside the shelter. They celebrated birthdays together, supported each other through illnesses, and became as close as family. Purpose was the glue that held them together, and it turned strangers into lifelong companions. The beauty of finding purpose with others is that it also helps ease shyness. When your attention is focused on helping someone or working on a project, the spotlight isn't on you anymore. It's on the task, the mission, the goal you're all working toward. And in that comfortable space, conversations unfold more naturally, without pressure. But beyond purpose, there's one final piece that can make new friendships after 65 truly flourish, and that's embracing vulnerability. It may sound scary, But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the willingness to let someone see the real you, the joys, the struggles, the fears, and the dreams that make up your life. It's admitting that sometimes you get lonely, or that you miss the way things used to be, or that you're nervous about health or aging. And it's also about sharing the positive things, the excitement of trying something new, or the pride in a grandchild achievements. When you open that door, even just a little, you give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability creates trust, and trust creates closeness. Many people in their later years feel isolated, not because they lack people around them, but because they lack spaces where they can be truly honest. By letting your guard down just a little, you transform casual acquaintances into true friends. I once met a woman who had recently moved into a retirement community. At first, she kept to herself, joining activities but never really connecting. One day, in a small group, she mentioned how hard it was to downsize from the home where she had raised her children. Immediately, others chimed in with their own stories of letting go of old houses and memories. That moment of shared vulnerability created an instant bond, and within weeks, she had a circle of friends who felt more like siblings. And isn't that what friendship really is? A safe place where you can be yourself, where you can laugh loudly, cry openly, and sit in silence comfortably. After 65, those spaces matter more than ever. They're not just about filling time, they're about filling the heart. So let's take a moment to look at the journey we've walked together. We began with the smallest steps, smiling at strangers, opening light conversations, joining activities where common interests break the ice. We moved into offering help, showing consistency, and daring to invite others into our lives. Then we found the deeper layers, finding purpose together and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Each of these steps is like a thread, and when you weave them together, they create a strong fabric of friendship that can carry you through this beautiful stage of life. And here's the most important part. It doesn't take dozens of friends to make life rich. Just one or two genuine connections can make all the difference. A friend who checks in on you, a friend you can call when you feel blue, a friend who shares a laugh over coffee. These relationships are treasures beyond measure. So if you've been telling yourself it's too late, or that shyness will always hold you back, I want you to know something. It's never too late. Every day is a new chance to smile, to reach out, to share, to show up. Friendships aren't reserved for the young. They're waiting for you, right here, right now, ready to be discovered in the most ordinary moments of your everyday life. And as you take those steps, remember that you're not alone in this journey. Thousands of others your age are feeling the very same way, longing for connection, hoping for friendship. By reaching out, you might not only gain a friend, you might also be the answer to someone else's loneliness. So go ahead, let today be the day you open your heart a little wider. Strike up that small conversation. Join that class. Extend that invitation. Show up consistently. Find a purpose to share. Be brave enough to be vulnerable. And in doing so, you'll discover that friendship after 65 isn't just possible, it's one of the greatest gifts this stage of life has to offer. If you've ever built a new friendship later in life, or if you're hoping to start now, I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments below. Your experience might be the encouragement someone else needs today. And if this message has warmed your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more uplifting conversations like this one. Here's to friendships that keep our hearts young, no matter our age. Here's to laughter, to connection, and to the joy of knowing that it's never too late to find someone who truly understands you. You know, as we wrap up this conversation, I want you to pause for a moment and really take in what all of this means. Friendship after 65 isn't about filling an empty space or proving something to others. It's about enriching your own life with moments of connection, laughter, and comfort. And it's about reminding yourself that your story still deserves to be shared, your presence still matters deeply, and your companionship is still one of the greatest gifts you can give. The truth is, many people your age feel the same worries you do. They wonder, what if I'm too shy? What if I've been out of practice for too long? What if nobody wants to connect with me anymore? But here's what I want you to hear clearly. Those fears are just whispers. They don't define reality. In reality, There are people out there longing for someone exactly like you, someone who will listen, someone who will laugh, someone who will simply sit beside them with kindness. Even if it starts with a single step, a smile at the grocery store, a question at the library, a wave to a neighbor, that step is enough to begin. Friendships don't have to be built overnight. They grow slowly, like seeds, and the beauty of being older is that you already know how to nurture things with patience. You've done in gardens, in families, in careers, and now you can do it with friendships too. And let's not forget the joy that new friendships bring into your health and happiness. Science backs it up. People with strong social connections live longer, heal faster, and feel more energized. But beyond the science, you already know the feeling. Think about the last time you laughed so hard your sides hurt, or when you shared a memory that made your heart swell with warmth. That's what we're aiming for here, moments that make life richer. So if you've been holding back, waiting for the right time, let this be your sign. The right time is today. The right time is every time you choose to open your heart just a little more. I also want to remind you of something beautiful. You don't need a crowd. A handful of true friendships is more than enough to bring joy to your days. One neighbor you chat with on your morning walk, one classmate from a hobby group, one person you volunteer alongside. These can form the golden circle that makes your later years not just peaceful, but truly vibrant. And if you're still doubting yourself, think about how often in life the most meaningful moments came from the smallest gestures. Maybe you met your lifelong partner with a simple hello. Maybe your closest friend years ago started as someone who just sat next to you at work. The magic is in the everyday, and it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still right here waiting for you. So, as you step forward from today, carry this with you. Open those small conversations, join activities that excite you, lend a helping hand, invite people into your world, show up consistently, find purpose together, and embrace the gift of vulnerability. Each step is simple, but together they create a path that leads straight to connection. And as you walk that path, remember you're not just building friendships for yourself. You're also giving someone else the chance to feel less alone, more valued, and more alive. That's the power you hold. That's the gift you carry. So let's raise a quiet cheer to this new chapter of life, a chapter filled with possibility, laughter, and new beginnings. Because 65 isn't the end of friendship. It's the start of some of the deepest, truest connections you may ever know. If this message touched you, I'd love for you to share your story in the comments. Tell us about a friendship you've made recently, or even one you hope to make. Your words might inspire someone else to take that first step. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because we'll keep bringing you conversations that help you live fully, joyfully, and with purpose at every age. Here's to new friendships, to open hearts, and to the beautiful reminder that it is never, ever too late to belong.